Family used my credit card just to hold the reservation for the holiday dinner. I got the charge anyway, $1,480. I called the restaurant and reported it as unauthorized. Then I sent a group text, "I won't pay for strangers." Panic started. I disputed the $1,480 charge and sent a group text, "I won't pay for strangers." Then I put my phone face down, poured a glass of wine and sat on my couch waiting. 3 minutes later it started. Tracy first, of course. 5 text bubbles in rapid fire. "What are you talking about? It was just to hold the table. We were going to pay you back. Why would you cancel it? You're being seriously dramatic right now." Then Angela. 1 missed call. Then a voice message I didn't bother listening to. Mom followed with a long drawn-out guilt text about how the holidays are a time for forgiveness and togetherness and not rash decisions. That word. Rash. No, this wasn't rash. This was a long time coming. Rewind to 3 days before Christmas. I was midway through a 16-hour shift in the ER. 3 trauma codes, 2 psych holds and 1 guy who thought he swallowed a battery for attention, when Tracy texted, "Hey, can we use your credit card just to hold the reservation for Christmas dinner? They won't charge it, promise. We just need to lock in the spot for everyone." I was too tired to think. I just said sure and texted back the numbers. She said it was for a small family dinner at a new place downtown, the Harrington. I didn't ask if I was invited. I already knew the answer. No one had asked about my schedule. They never do. Christmas Day came and went. I was on call anyway, pulling a double. I got a photo in the group chat of everyone dressed up at a long white tablecloth table. Tracy with champagne. Angela next to a guy I didn't recognize. Mom with that fake smile she reserves for when she's playing hostess. That was it. No caption. No "wish you were here." Just the photo. 2 days later I checked my Amex balance while paying a parking ticket and saw the charge. $1,480 from the Harrington. I thought it was a mistake. Called the restaurant. The woman I spoke to said it was definitely my card. Used for the full bill including wine. She even read the name on the reservation. Angela. 11 guests. I counted. 11. I wasn't one of them. That was when it stopped being about money. It was never really about money. I've been the dependable one for years. I covered Angela's college bills when she decided she wasn't meant for academia. I paid Tracy's rent for 6 months after she left her last job to become a wellness coach, which lasted maybe 3 weeks. I've bailed out Mom more times than I can count. Electric bills, medical expenses, her property taxes last year. I was the safety net. The backup plan. The invisible investor in everyone else's life. But not this time. This time they didn't even pretend. They planned a dinner, invited people I don't know, didn't tell me where it was, didn't include me, and still used my card like it was just part of the table setting. That's why I canceled it. That's why I sent the text. And sitting there on the couch, sipping my wine, watching their messages pile up in desperate bursts, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. But it was a start. The next day I turned off read receipts. Ignored every call. Let them marinate in confusion. Angela sent a text just before noon. "I just checked my bank. Did you seriously cancel the payment? They're threatening to take legal action." Then Mom chimed in with a classic. "You're putting this whole family in a bad light, Barbara. I raced you better than this." That one made me laugh. She raced me. I left home at 17 with 2 suitcases and a scholarship. Every dollar since then I earned on my own. Every night shift. Every holiday missed. Every moment spent watching someone else's heart monitor flatline while mine kept going. Tracy called again. I didn't pick up. He texted after. "They said they'll blacklist us from the restaurant. We go there all the time." That sentence told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a one-time family dinner. They'd been using that place for a while. Probably with my card. Probably more than once. So I did something I should have done years ago. I called Amex and requested a statement going back 12 months. Told them I wanted to flag any charges from the Harrington. And any charges made online after 11 p.m. Tracy was always the night owl with the sudden emergencies. While I waited for the report, I opened a new checking account. One they didn't know about. Started rerouting all my direct deposits. I'd played provider long enough. That evening Angela left a voicemail. I could hear she was crying, or at least trying to sound like it. Said something about being embarrassed, about the restaurant manager yelling at them, about the boyfriend's kids watching her get humiliated. Then she said it. "You always do this, Barb. You think you're better than us just because you went to med school." That line was the beginning of the end. Because it told me exactly what this was really about. I wasn't the A-team. I was the outsider. The necessary villain in the family script. The one who got out, made something of herself, and became the convenient punching bag for every bad decision they made. But I wasn't going to play that role anymore. The next day I sent one more text to the group. From now on, I'm not covering anyone's bills. Don't ask. I won't respond. I muted the chat. Left my phone on silent. Took myself out for dinner. Alone for once on my terms. While I was slicing into a rare steak my phone buzzed. Then again. I didn't check. Because I knew what was happening. They were spiraling. And this was only the first ripple. They had no idea how far I was willing to go. 2 days after I sent the last text, Mom showed up at the hospital. She never visits. She hates hospitals, says the smell makes her dizzy. But there she was, standing by the security desk when I walked out of the staff lounge after a night shift, holding a thermos and that same dramatic, worried mother expression she pulls out when she wants something. I walked right past her. She followed me outside. Started with the usual lines. Said she was just worried. Said we were family and we couldn't let things dissolve over one mistake. Then she dropped the real reason she came. They froze Angela's account. The restaurant filed a police report. They said the card was unauthorized. I said nothing. I unlocked my car and sat down. Then she said it. You can fix this, Barbara. Just call them and explain it was a misunderstanding. You're a doctor, they'll believe you. That was her plan. Not an apology. Not an admission. Just an expectation that I'd use my reputation to clean up their mess again. I didn't answer. Drove off without a word. They weren't used to that. By the end of the week, the cracks were visible. Angela's boyfriend kicked her out. Tracy posted a thinly veiled pity post about snakes in the family. Mom started calling my coworkers asking if I was okay. One of the nurses showed me a voicemail. My mother pretending she was concerned I might be having a breakdown. I finally got the Amex report. It confirmed what I already suspected. Over $3,000 in charges from the Harrington across the last 6 months. All during times I was working night shifts. Some nights they went twice. I printed the statement. Folded it. Mailed a copy to each of them. No note. No explanation. Just the facts. Then I did something subtle. But nuclear. I called Mom's landlord and asked him to remove me as the emergency contact and financial guarantor. Same with Angela's student loan cosigner form. Same with Tracy's car lease. All in one afternoon. By the next morning I had 30 missed calls and a dozen messages, all variations of the same theme. How could you do this? Simple. Because I finally realized I was never part of a family. I was part of a system. A quiet financial scaffolding holding up 3 fully grown adults who decided that because I chose a hard path and made it work, I somehow owed them everything they didn't bother earning. The panic was setting in now. But they still didn't get it. They thought this was just a tantrum. They had no idea it was the demolition phase. Angela showed up at my apartment unannounced the following weekend. I only knew because my building's front desk called up and asked if I was expecting anyone. I told them to send her away. 10 minutes later she texted, "You're seriously not going to talk to your own sister? You know I'm facing charges for this, right?" That was the first time she'd admitted it. That she did use my card. That it wasn't a misunderstanding or a restaurant glitch. Just entitlement. Dressed up in fake confusion. I didn't reply. Later that evening I got an email from Amex. The dispute was resolved in my favor. Full refund. No liability. They were investigating potential fraud. That meant they'd be contacting Angela directly. Possibly even pressing charges depending on how she answered. I could have stepped in. One call and it would have gone away. But I didn't. They were so used to me being the net that caught them. But now there was no net. Just free fall. Tracy cracked next. She called me crying, actually crying, which she rarely does unless there's something very specific she's trying to get out of. Said she was being evicted. Said she thought I'd help her like I always did. Said she only let them use my card because everyone thought it was fine. That line stuck with me. Everyone thought it was fine. That's exactly it. They didn't even think twice. Not about me or my time or my life. I was just the doctor's sister. The one who never had time to come home but always had enough money to fix things. A silent wallet in scrubs. I sent her one message. Sell the car. Get a roommate. Figure it out. 2 days later Mom called. I finally picked up. She went on about family, about forgiveness, about how she'd always been there for me emotionally even if not financially. I let her talk. Then she asked the real question. Are you seriously going to let your sisters drown like this? I told her yes. There was silence. Then a quiet, furious "You've changed." She wasn't wrong. I was just done playing broke so they could play rich. Done canceling my vacations so they could afford new phones. Done working 12-hour shifts to keep people alive and then coming home to messages from people who acted like I owed them something. They weren't drowning. They were finally treading their own water. And I was finally on shore. The blowback didn't really hit until Easter. Aunt Jean always hosted and I hadn't been to one of her gatherings in years. But this time I made sure to show up. Not for the food or the small talk. I just wanted them to see me. Not a voice on the other end of a call, not a card number they could use without asking me. I came straight from a shift, still in scrubs. Hair tied back, no makeup. I brought a bottle of wine and a pie from a bakery near the hospital. Walked in and said hello to Aunt Jean like everything was normal. Tracy saw me first. She blinked like she wasn't sure I was real. Angela froze. Mom barely looked up from her conversation with two women from church. I took a seat near the window, helped myself to a plate and waited. They didn't say a word. Just whispered to each other when they thought no one was listening. It was kind of impressive. How quickly they fell into the habit of talking around me like I was some outsider crashing their private reunion. As if I hadn't funded half their lives up until 2 months ago. Then Uncle Mike, loud, oblivious Uncle Mike, boomed across the table, "Barb, you still holding down the family like always? Must be nice being the rich one." Everyone went quiet. Angela looked at her plate. Tracy got up and walked to the kitchen. Mom finally looked me in the eye. I took a sip of wine and said, "Not anymore." You could feel it ripple. Aunt Jean tried to change the subject, but it was too late. The message was loud and clear. This wasn't just about a canceled dinner anymore. This was about everything. Years of dependence. Years of unspoken resentment. Angela left 10 minutes later. Didn't say goodbye. Tracy followed right after. Mom stayed seated, pretending to enjoy her coffee, but her hands kept fidgeting. That night Angela emailed me. It was long. Rambling. Emotional. She said her boyfriend dumped her, that she was being threatened with charges, that she might not be able to finish her online nursing program because of what I'd done. She said I ruined her. I didn't reply. The next morning Tracy posted one of her classic Facebook monologues. Something vague and bitter about loyalty and how some people forget where they came from. Comments started pouring in. A few of her friends backed her up. But some didn't. One woman replied, "You're almost 40. Maybe it's time you stopped depending on your sister." I didn't comment, but I saved the thread. Just in case. Mom didn't call. But a week later I got a handwritten letter in the mail. Short. I went completely off-grid for a week in July. No warning. No updates. No trace. I booked a small cabin in Maine with no Wi-Fi, no cell service and no neighbors. I told the hospital I was taking a personal retreat and left my phone in a drawer. For the first time in years I didn't check patient charts, answer panicked messages, or scroll through family drama disguised as obligations. I read paperbacks. Took long walks by the rocky coast. Cooked meals just for myself. I didn't think about what my mother needed or what crisis Tracy had created or what lie Angela was busy telling. There was no part of me connected to them out there, and the silence felt like oxygen. When I got back to service range my phone nearly combusted. 42 missed messages. 6 voicemails. 2 emails marked urgent. Angela's fraud case had escalated. The restaurant had formally pressed charges. Apparently, the footage of her signing the bill and celebrating with champagne didn't help her misunderstanding defense. She was now facing probation and a hefty fine. Her nursing program dropped her during the investigation. One email said, "I just needed a break. I didn't think you'd make it this big of a deal." Tracy, it turns out, had been living rent-free in someone's guest room after her eviction, and that situation fell apart when she borrowed a laptop and forgot to return it. She was back living with Mom, who was 3 months behind on her mortgage and scrambling to apply for financial assistance. Someone had suggested she sell the house. She told them she was waiting on her daughter to come to her senses. They were all still waiting for me to crack. What they didn't know was that while they were spiraling, I'd been quietly setting everything in motion to erase my name from anything that could tie me back to them. When I got back I met with my attorney. We finalized the paperwork to remove me as financial guarantor from every account they could possibly touch. I withdrew as co-signer on Tracy's car lease, after I paid off the remainder just to close it. I filed identity alerts on all 3 credit bureaus to block any unauthorized credit attempts. I instructed HR to flag any family members trying to verify employment on my behalf. It was clean, permanent, quiet. The only hint I gave them was a text I sent to the group chat that night, just 5 words. "Don't contact me again. Ever. No more context. No more invitations for debate." A week later I received a certified letter from Mom. I didn't open it immediately. I waited until Sunday morning, sitting on my new apartment's balcony, the sun just starting to warm the metal railings. Inside was a handwritten note. "I didn't raise you to be this cold. You were never better than us. Just more selfish. I hope it keeps you warm when no one else does." That was it. No signature. No love, Mom. Just a bitter benediction from a woman who thought being a mother meant collecting debt. I folded the letter once and dropped it into the trash without reading it again. What they never understood, what they still don't, is that I never thought I was better than them. I just stopped pretending they weren't using me. They believed I'd come back eventually, that I'd feel guilty, that I'd miss the chaos or the obligation or the approval. But I didn't.